Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, where today I'll be attempting to upgrade another one of my locos. And the subject for this tutorial is the old Hornby Dapol J94 Austerity saddle tank. These days, a lot of our models are designed with digital control in mind. Often you just pop the body off and plug in a decoder. If you want DCC sound, well, often there's a speaker pre-fitted to the model, or you can even just simply buy a sound-fitted model directly from the manufacturer. But the old Hornby Austerity predates all this fancy digital control, yet its slow speed and fantastic running capabilities continues to make it popular with modelers to this day, myself included. Now, previously I fitted a standard decoder to the Austerity to show you how to run it on a DCC layout. But today I want to take things even further by fitting a sound decoder, a speaker of course, and even a stay alive to really upgrade this model. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it too, so you can try this yourself at home if you've always wanted a sound fitted Austerity, and there are links down in the description to everything that I'm using today, so you can really follow along for yourself. Before we get started though, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. There's loads of new videos coming out all the time, and if you enjoy the stuff I make here, we'd love to have you be part of our little community. But yeah, with that said, let's jump straight into the tutorial. So this is the old Hornby Austerity. Definitely an older model now, although this is one of the more recent versions, so the decoration is pretty good. The first step, of course, is to remove the body so that we can get at the innards, and we'll start by loosening off the screw that hides in the chimney. There's then two further screws on the underside back by the cab. Again, both of these are removed. And then the whole body should just slide off with a little bit of manoeuvring. Right now you can see we've got this big metal weight in the boiler area, and we'll need to remove this too by loosening the two screws on either side. With the weight removed, we can see the motor underneath and the two brackets that hold it in place. Again, all this needs to be removed as well, so starting with the bracket up by the wires, the two screws are loosened off. Because there's a wire running through this bracket, I'll just use the soldering iron to detach it from the motor. The bracket can then be pulled out. Again, there are two screws to remove the bracket from the other side of the motor as well. And with that done, now we can remove the motor itself. The black wire attached to the bottom of this also needs to be detached too, with a quick touch of the soldering iron. So with the loco disassembled, now let's turn our attention to the sound decoder itself. This is an MS500F, which is a 6-pin sound decoder from Zemo. Whatever sound decoder you decide to use though, you need to make sure you get one with a wired harness instead of a direct plug, as we'll need to hardwire it into the model. Before that though, we need to attach the speaker, and it's the two purple wires that we'll need to use for this. You'll need to tin both of these wires, and when we attach them to the speaker, it doesn't matter which way round they go, they're both exactly the same. This speaker is a Minnow 4 from U-Choose. It's fairly small but does give us a decent sound. The purple wires are then soldered to the tabs on either side of the speaker. Like I said, it doesn't matter which way round these go. Something else I do is trim off the extra function wires just to save some space later. And of course we need to cut off the 6-pin plug as well to be able to hardwire the decoder later on. Since the Austerity is a fairly small loco, I'm going to add a stay alive in the mix too, which I'll position inside the cab. For this I'm using a Zemo stay alive control board and two capacitors, and here you can see the wiring diagrams that come in the instructions, just so you know how to connect all this up correctly. First, let's join the two capacitors together by bending the anode from one to the cathode of the other. And for those unaware, the anode is the positive longer wire and the cathode is the negative shorter wire. Once these have been bent together, just add a little bit of solder to the join to fix them in place. And the excess wire can then be trimmed, but leave the two outer wires alone for the moment. The grey wire from the control board is then soldered to the cathode, and the blue wire is soldered to the anode. And then to join everything together, the blue and grey wires on the Zemo decoder need to be soldered to the pads on the Stay Alive control board. With that done, it's a good idea to use some Kapton tape to insulate the board and the capacitors. And that remaining wire can be trimmed off as well too. Now we get to the point where we can connect the decoder to the loco itself. First, solder the decoder's red wire to the red wire from the loco. And then we'll do the same, soldering the black decoder wire to the black loco wire. Now, on some of the older Hornby Austerities, the wiring is all black, but it doesn't actually matter which way round these wires go. If you do get it wrong, the loco will just run in the opposite direction. Now, if this is the case, you can simply swap the wires back round, or simply change the direction on the decoder using CV29. To wire the decoder to the motor, we first need to slip the motor bracket over the orange wire. This wire is then soldered to the upper motor tab. The grey wire is then soldered to the opposite side of the motor. And that's all the soldering done now, so it's a good idea to go through and insulate the decoder and any of the joints that are showing just to be safe. Now we start the job of fitting everything in, starting off by seating the motor back in the loco. The front bracket can then be screwed back in as well. The decoder itself will sit in this front cavity. And then the speaker will go on top. It's tight, but both of these should fit under the weight that goes on top, though you may need to poke the wires in a bit. The second motor bracket can also be screwed in place. And now the weight can be replaced on top and screwed down as well. At this point, everything should fit neatly, as the next step is to put the body back on. To make this easier, I detached the boiler cladding from the cab so that we can do this in 2 stages. You'll also notice here that there's a handy slot for our capacitor wires to pass through, so there's no need to cut away part of the moulding here. The boiler then fits back over the motor and the weight, with those capacitor wires going through underneath the controls. The chimney can then be replaced, and this section is screwed back down. And now with the capacitor in place, the cab can be slotted over the top and clipped back down too. And if the capacitors don't want to play ball, you can always use a bit of black tack here just to hold them steady. With the cab back in position, don't forget to replace the 2 screws on the underside either. Now this final step is optional, but having gone to all this trouble, it's worth adding some crew figures for that extra detail. I use tacky wax for this, and the other benefit is that it'll hide those capacitors as well, should anyone try to look through the cab. And with that, we're done. So let's head over to the layout and check that everything is working. So there we go. You can hear the sound decoder is all working as expected, and that really nice slow speed from the Hornby Dapol model hasn't been affected either. While we can, let's just test out the Stay Alive. Yeah, not a huge amount of backup power there, but it should be enough to help you get over the odd bit of dirty track. Personally, I do find that sound locos are a bit more sensitive to stalling, especially smaller tank engines like the Austerity. So a Stay Alive, even just a small one like this, does seem to work really well. Anyway, let's get the Austerity coupled up to some wagons and take it for a test run. So overall, this is a really nice upgrade to this loco, and it just shows that these older models can definitely still be enhanced by adding sound. A nice little bonus in my case as well is that I believe this sound recording was made from the real life number 22, so this is a perfect pairing. Of course, while the Hornby model does just about hold up, there are of course other options, especially with the upcoming Acura Austerity, which you'll be able to get pre-fitted with sound along with a speaker, stay alive and firebox LED. Obviously, the process I've shown today to sound fit the Hornby model is quite involved, so if that seems a bit much for you, maybe consider holding off until the Acura scale model is released next year. But if you do like to be a bit more hands-on, this could be a fun little project to upgrade an existing loco you already have, so do let me know if this is something that you'll be trying out yourself. As always, there are links in the description to everything I've used today, and if you've enjoyed this tutorial, please do subscribe to the channel to see lots more model railway videos in the future. That's it for today though guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!